Steve Windmiller says he has no problem with more apartments in Los Angeles. He just doesn't want them all built right in his backyard. For decades, he's lived in this close-knit Westchester suburb of single-family homes built just after World War II. Now, a new neighbor has changed everything. This development has literally stolen the sunshine and much of what Steve and his neighbors once loved about living here.
I used to be able to see the sunsets. I used to be able to get sun into my backyard by my pool. I've lost the use of my backyard. People all the time stop and look at it, and they ask me, they say, what is that? How did that get there?
I'm practicing anger management techniques daily. And I joke about that, but yeah, it's stress.
These neighbors used to live next to a church and a school campus. Now it's a 100-unit apartment building, and it keeps going up and up and up, 5 stories high. So just how did this happen?
I don't know if it was backroom deals, but it was kind of just a check, check, check. You went through the process. Okay, yeah, you're approved.
The approval process starts at the City Planning Department, which oversees zoning rules. Then it heads to the Planning Commission. But the City Council and the mayor have final say. Now, more and more LA residents are asking, who approved that? As small family homes give way to massive apartment buildings.
And they said they would be there for us. They weren't. Why do we have people that represent us that have no say, that can't fight for us, that can't do anything for us?
Westchester isn't the only area where giant buildings are dwarfing neighborhoods. Some parts of LA look just like a scene from the movie Up. And homeowners aren't the only ones who are voicing discontent with LA's vertical creep.
It's a little disconcerting to feel occupied.
Renters like these, who live in Hollywood's Yucca Argyle apartments near the Capitol Records building, are fighting plans to tear down their rent-controlled apartments.
Why are we driving out people that help build the community in the name of, urban renewal?
People are leaving California. People are leaving LA because they can't afford it. And it's because of these developments.
The day after our interview, the developer sent them a notice saying their buildings would be razed, but that current tenants would also be guaranteed comparable rent-controlled apartments in a new building. Still, they say it's a huge loss.
This is
Classic Hollywood.
Yeah.
Yep, classic Hollywood.
And they want it to be what's behind us here.
And then this one over here. And over here, you're going to see another high-rise, it looks like.
Yes. They're slowly sort of erasing, a lot of the historic quality and the things about Hollywood that make it unique.
We've worked with a lot of garden apartment complexes with bungalow courts. Some of these are designed to really promote community, and that's something that I don't know that people think about as much now.
Most everyone we talk to agrees it's time to put the planning back into city planning in LA. But preserving the past while moving into the future won't be easy.
We have a political process and a planning process that was created in the early 20th century. I think that the process actually is largely outdated and isn't as fast, isn't as creative as what we need to really address the underlying problems facing the city.
Mike Wu is a former LA City Council member and a past president of the Planning Commission. Now he inspires students to innovate as the Dean of Environmental Design at Cal Poly Pomona.
If a city allows affordable units to be lost, it really transforms what a city is like. The middle classes really add a lot to the stability of a city. And so if the middle class can't afford to live in the city, ultimately the city loses out and becomes a shell of what a diverse, heterogeneous city should be.
Many neighborhood groups voicing opposition to large developments next to their homes are frustrated by changes they say are indiscriminate and poorly planned. Critics call them NIMBYs, short for not in my backyard. Now there's a generation of residents, those who shout, yes in my backyard, or YIMBYs, who enthusiastically push for more housing, even if that means high rises in single-family neighborhoods.
I'm not trying to tell you that you can't live in a house. I'm just asking you not to tell me that I can't live in an apartment.
YIMBYs tend to be millennials who rent rather than own, and they're hungry for housing near metro stops, restaurants, and businesses.
You want to put housing in places where people can live without cars, and it's easier for them to get around.
A new planning project called Recode LA is already working to overhaul LA's zoning codes. They're holding hearings like this one near the Wilshire corridor to consider new housing zones along transit lines. Most of the people we met here, including local homeowners, support more high-density housing.
We look at as many strategies as we can. This is the stage where we like to hear from the communities, and their input is very valuable to our process.
I'm all for having denser housing along Wilshire, as close to the purple line as you can get. I want more towers around Wilshire. There's a lot of parking lots that could be redeveloped, a lot of single-use, really low-rise buildings could be redeveloped.
At UCLA's City Lab, Professor Kevin Daly has asked students to design creative ways to increase housing.
City Lab recognized that there was another solution, which is building additional units in existing single-family house backyards.
The extra housing, they say, could boost available units without dominating neighborhoods.
Every single person you talk to has a slightly different narrative. They want to rent it. They have a kid who's moving back. They are getting older. They want to move into it and rent their house. And so there's a huge range of scenarios.
UCLA's City Lab also helped pass statewide legislation easing restrictions on backyard units. YIMBYs applaud that approach.
I think there are currently too many restrictions on the types of projects we build. We want mixed income neighborhoods, not neighborhoods just for the rich.
But whether any of this would provide affordable housing, LA's biggest challenge, is still up for debate. It seems where there's a solution, there's also another problem.
When there's a big housing shortage, what happens is people build housing and they build the most expensive housing they can build.
And that in turn often accelerates unwelcome changes to the city's long-standing neighborhoods.
People are starting to really care about their historic resources, and they want a way to save them.
LA's Koreatown is one neighborhood where discontent has leaked into the political and social climate.
We want to be able to keep a little bit of our history, be it Boyle Heights, be it Chinatown. When you have residents who are no longer able to stay where they've grown up, it is causing great consternation to not just the individual, but entire ripples of communities.
In a shocker, Koreatown elected outsider David Rue to the LA City Council in 2015. He won on a wave of anti-development sentiments. A survey by the LA Times found that despite pushback from residents, city officials approved 90% of zoning changes requested by developers citywide during the past 17 years. The Westchester residents outraged by the high-rise apartments in their backyard are also becoming increasingly political, supporting a recall campaign to oust their city councilman, Mike Bonin.
After over a year or more of talking with city people, meeting with Councilman Mike Bonin and stuff like that, we've just found out that they don't really support us.
But Bonin represents not just Westchester. He also oversees other areas of West Los Angeles now undergoing rapid growth, including Playa Vista's Silicon Beach and other coastal communities where housing shortages are highest. And the growth of tech and innovation industries now happening here only worsens housing shortages.
It's creating demand for housing from workers who want to not have to commute a long distance, and that results in the development pressure.
Do you think that that's a pressure to kind of create this housing in that area?
This is not a surprise. Nobody should be surprised this happened.
It's also pressure that continues to boost housing prices, building heights, and even developments near freeways where pollution levels are high. These units, like those in nearby Westchester, are built for the huge influx of tech employees working nearby.
There's a real recognition that we're a growing city, and we have to continue to find ways to accommodate the population.
Signaling that suburban sprawl of yesterday is giving way to growth in an entirely different direction.